Hi, everybody. Today we're gonna reapproach ethics in engineering management. Um, we're going to do an actual application. Now that we've covered both engineering, the law, and utilitarianism, we can start discussing actual applications that are interesting. So this is going to be one of the ones that you need to keep in mind when you make long-term decisions um, in the workforce. So engineers, in the fulfillment of their professional duties, shall hold paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public, perform services only in areas of their competence, issue public statements only in an objective and truthful manner, act for each employer or client as a faithful agent or trustees, avoid deceptive acts, conduct themselves honorably, responsibly, ethically, and lawfully so as to enhance the honor, reputation, and usefulness of their profession. All right, so we've already covered management a bit, but I do need to reiterate some major points. Engineering management combines the technical skill of engineering with the strategic and organizational skills of management. Ethics in engineering management is about making decisions that are not only effective but also morally right. Ethical considerations in engineering management include honesty, fairness, respect for others, and responsibility for public safety and welfare. In the case we're discussing today, I want you to imagine that you are in a realistic scenario, that your bosses are, for the most part, good people. They are just trying to get their work done, trying to get their job done, but they are still managers. So they, in a sense, are still obligated to make sure that the company stays afloat. If the company doesn't stay afloat, they can't pay their employees. From a utilitarian standpoint, there's a lot of motivation to keep a company in business because that is the only way that the employees can feed their families. There are other benefits to keeping the company going. That includes making the customer happy, making the supplier happy. Um, and so you have to remember to try to approach this from the manager's point of view. He's got a lot of motivation to keep the company afloat. He doesn't want the company to go under because even though it might look bad on him, there's a lot of negative consequences to a company going under. People get fired. They don't know if they're going to feed their kids. A company going under means the supplier might also go under. If the consumer really enjoyed the product, they're going to be unhappy that they lose it. So ethics guides engineering managers in their decision making, helping them balance the needs of the organization with the needs of the employees, customers, and the public. Ethical engineering managers foster a culture of integrity and respect within their teams, promoting ethical behavior at all levels. They're responsible for ensuring that their decisions and actions comply with relevant laws, regulations, and professional standards. Ethical considerations are particularly important in areas such as safety, environmental sustainability, and social responsibility. So I want to stick, or I want you to think about that fourth bullet. They have to make sure that their decisions comply with laws, regulations, professional standards. That's a fancy way of saying that they have to make sure their decisions make sense. When they go through the tests that we went over in previous class, if other people went and asked them, why did you make that decision? Could they stand in front of a judge? Could they stand in front of their colleagues or peers and justify their decision? If the answer is no, then you're not being realistic. So I want you to do your best to put yourself in the shoes of the manager on the next set of slides. These are major things that managers, in addition to the engineering work, need to consider. Conflicts of interest occur. Sometimes it's personal, sometimes it's financial. Um, and they have to make an effort to make sure that it doesn't influence their professional judgment and decision making. An engineering manager might face a conflict of interest if they have a financial stake in a supplier company, and they have to recuse themselves from that decision. Ethical issues can arise when deciding how to allocate resources, such as time, money, and personnel. Decisions should be made fairly, transparently, in the best interests of the project and stakeholders. Engineering managers often have to make trade-offs between these factors. Ethical issues can arise if decisions compromise safety or quality to save costs. All right, you're employed by a globally recognized science and engineering firm. All right, so what tests might apply here? What would my peers think? What would a judge say? What will the public say to the decisions I'm about to make? Recently, your firm has had competitive issues. You're not making as much money as you used to be, and that might cause you to go under. An old competitor has been reinvigorated, and now they're becoming a lot more competitive than they used to be. A new competitor has appeared in the market. This isn't uncommon, especially for large companies. Sometimes large companies, especially the older ones, get bogged down by their own bureaucracy and become inefficient. And new companies that are smaller, that don't have any bureaucracy, that don't have any legacy obligations, are a lot more dynamic. It allows them to capitalize on higher risk, higher reward investments. To save the company, the firm you work for wants to demonstrate a new capability of an old product. In this demo, this demo has been planned for over a year. That is to say, last January, you said at the next Christmas demo, we're going to demonstrate this product. People are aware of the product, they're buying the product, but there's a whole bunch of features they're not using that they're not aware of. And so we're going to roll this out, we're going to make sure it gets into everybody's hands, but once it's in everybody's hands, we're going to show them all these features that they're not using. And hopefully that'll make them want to stick with us, and hopefully it'll make people who aren't with us join us. And by doing this, it'll make your company more profitable, and the investors will want to stick with you. And by doing this, the old competitors are going to have a lot more work to deal with, and the new competitors, the people who are more dynamic, are going to have a lot more trouble being dynamic. So the dilemma. The day before the demo, an engineer that has frequent erroneous concerns threatens to whistleblow. Now, whistleblowing is an important legal tool that you as an engineer have. However, it's like pulling a fire alarm. If you whistleblow, it'll work. Everybody will know about this piece of information. However, if you pull a fire alarm and there isn't a fire, do you think you're going to be welcomed back? The answer is going to be no. If you pull the fire alarm and there is a fire, the fire department shows up and puts the fire out, you might be treated as a hero. But if you pull that fire alarm and there is no fire, the fire department's going to be pissed off. They're going to be mad at you. Your company might let you go because now they have to pay this fire department for all the inconvenience you just caused. The same thing happens with whistleblowing. If you whistleblow and you're right, the general public will treat you like a hero, and they'll appreciate the actions you took. However, if you whistleblow and you are wrong, or more importantly, it looks like you're just manufacturing a problem, you're making drama, that's how the public's going to treat you. In certain cases, you can go to jail for it. So you need to make sure that if you're going to whistleblow, you're right. The engineer works for your main contractor and states to use the product during the demonstration, the firm must use the product 3% outside of its design constraints. This will cause the product to fail to operate as intended. The operators could be hurt during the failure. Now I want you to think, as a manager in this scenario, would you trust this guy? The engineer has been aware of the plan for over a year. Why is he stating it now? The day before? Why didn't he state it in February, when there were still 10 months until the demo? Why is he waiting until now? Do you know how much money it costs to go to some conference and demonstrate a new product? Do you know how much work that is? It's an enormous amount of effort. Why didn't he wait till the day before? As a manager, if somebody did this to you, would you take them seriously? Or would you treat them like they were manufacturing a problem and being dramatic? So first we need to determine if this is a dilemma. So we need to look at it from both sides. Or we have to define how this is a rock and a hard place situation. So the one side is you've put all this effort into demonstrating. You've shipped the product to the location it needs to be. You've trained the operators to use the product. You've trained the operators how to use it in front of the general public. It's a ton of money you've put into this, and you need it to work for the company to stay afloat. However, the engineer is saying the operators could get hurt. And if he's telling the truth, yeah, there's a problem. If the operators get hurt during the demonstration and it's in front of the public, it's going to look really bad. And there's going to be a lot of motivation to give money to the competitors, the old and the new, because you risked the lives of the operators. You risked their safety for your own personal benefit. So what are your viable options here? Well, the first option is to proceed with the demo. That is one of your options. The other is to abandon the demo. You have an option to not perform the demonstration. So who are the key stakeholders here? Well, you got to remember, if you abandon the demo, the company will probably go under, you will get fired, and there will be a lot of layoffs. However, if you choose to, so the layoffs is if you don't perform the demo. If you choose to perform the demo, you are pushing the product beyond its design constraints. This is a true statement. There's a chance this might harm the operators. That's not good, and it might look bad for you guys. So who are the principal stakeholders here? Well, the first is the firm. The next is the investors, the subcontractors, the operators, the general public. It's the people at the trade show. So how does the firm care about this? Why? Why does the firm care about this? Well, they want to stay afloat. They want to keep all the employees employed. They want to keep all the employees fed and happy. The investors, well, they've given you a ton of money, and they want to either get that money back or they want to get paid in installments for as long as they own the company. The only way to do that is if the company stays afloat. What about the subcontractors? What do they feel about it? Well, even though they're not direct employees, they're employed by you. They want you to stay afloat too. If you go under, they lose a customer. The operators. Well, the operators are employees. They want to get paid. They know if the company goes under, they won't get paid. But at this point, this is where you have to ask. Before, it was kind of obvious how they wanted you to go. You have to ask the operators directly. There is a risk here. Are you willing to absorb the risk? You have to ask that question. And then there's the general public. By default, you always assume that the general public doesn't want to assume risk. Yes, sometimes the general public does. There are special instances where that's true, but it's very uncommon. All right, it's the decision. So the firm determines that they might kill, hurt, break promises, or break the law if they perform the demonstration. The firm determines that they couldn't defend their choice of demonstrating in front of a judge. So, to mitigate loss of investors, the firm asks the subcontractor, the employee who's threatened to blow the whistle, to elaborate on the 3% issue. A new team at the subcontractor states that the engineer with the concern has been released. He couldn't explain why or how pushing the hardware beyond the design constraint would cause risk and may have voiced his concern erroneously or nefariously. All right, I want an email from you. I want it to say EGR 316, line, and then either say will launch or won't launch. That's all I want. That's all I want from the subject line. I don't need anything in the body. I don't need a 2-page explanation. Just I'm going to launch or I'm not going to launch. The engineer waited till the last day to give warning. The 3% issue appears to be fake. The operators and investors are aware of the risk and they don't take it seriously. The engineer will whistleblow if he's genuinely concerned. I want you to pause at this step and answer. What do you do? Do you launch the product or do you wait? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.